But I remember vividly that I hated reading. I hated it. And I have students that come up to me and say, Miss, you're an awesome teacher, but I got to tell you, I just don't like reading. And I'm like, it's because you haven't found your niche yet.
Welcome to Story Power, a bi-monthly podcast where my guests and I geek out about the stories we are passionate about in all different genres, styles, and formats. And we'll give a few recommendations to you, our listeners. Beware, possible spoilers ahead. My name is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden, and I started this podcast during the COVID-19 pandemic. As I watched the reaction of my social media circle, I noticed that many people turned to stories for comfort and help in making sense of the craziness going on around them. And as all good stories do, the world got even crazier. But, as Neil Gaiman says, fairy tales are more than true not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. Since I believe that stories have the power to show us the way and give us courage to keep going, I wanted to see if that was true for my guests as well. You're listening to episode 26. Gemma Herman is my guest today, and she's a former student of mine. And Gemma, I am so excited to talk to you because we haven't talked to each other in many years. Decades, exactly. And you have had an interesting life. You're a teacher, you're a writer. So, Gemma, welcome to the show.
I am so happy to be here and so happy to see you again.
I'm happy to see you too. And I know you're teaching middle school. Another student of mine, Mark Zapeta, is teaching high school.
Oh, Mark. I know Mark. I love him.
Yes, he's really great. So, and recently I talked with some other people who are in charge of the Douglas Oral History Project. And so here we are. We're having a few episodes with Douglasites, and I'm so excited about that. So do you want to tell a little bit about not only what you've been doing, but also how you got hooked on stories?
Yes. Okay. So when I was young, my Nana pretty much raised me. Mm-hmm. And in order for her to do anything, I always begged her to tell me cuentos, which are stories, little stories. So she would tell me, but they weren't like your typical nowadays stories. Mm-hmm. They were from Grimm's fairy tales, which is really weird because she used to have it in Spanish. Mm-hmm. So she would tell me La Sirenita, Cinderella, all these different cuentos. And I was always hooked on hearing stories. And on the other side, when my mom wasn't working, she would read to me constantly. Every night, every day, she'd read to me. And the book that I always had her read to me was Black Beauty. Oh. And since I'm an only child, after I'd grown up, was growing up more, I guess, now that I'm a teacher, young seems so different now. Mm-hmm. But as I was growing up and I started playing, I would play outside all the time. And I never had any siblings to play with me. So I always made up stories while I was playing all by myself. And so as I grew up, I just loved creating the different kinds of worlds that I could maybe be in. But I remember vividly that I hated reading. I hated it. And I have students that come up to me and say, Miss, you're an awesome teacher, but I got to tell you, I just don't like reading. And I'm like, it's because you haven't found your niche yet. And I think that's the biggest thing, because when I was in elementary, my mom would always buy me those Scholastic books and everything. But I always bought books like the Babysitter's Club and all like the in kind of books that the kids were reading. And I never really got interested in them. But when I went into middle school, I found my niche. In 7th grade, I bought the Chronicles of Narnia. And the very first book that I read from that series, of course, was The Magician's Nephew. And after that, I knew I was hooked on fantasy. So I remember going through the hallways in your typical nerd geek style, reading my book, from the Chronicles of Narnia or Harry Potter, or The Lord of the Rings, and I'd be walking down the hallway reading that book. And my friend Cynthia, she and I made a deal with our PE teacher, and because we were horrible at PE, I'm not an athletic kind of person. But so we agreed between the teacher and ourselves that if we walked around the gym, she'd give us credit for the day. So there we were. We were reading fantasy novels, Harry Potter, everything, just walking around the gym. And it was the best I've ever had. And then when I got to high school, I realized I liked to write by writing, because we would have writing time in high school. They would give us of the aims, they would have us do 15 minutes, I think it was, of reading, and then 15 minutes or 10 minutes of writing. And it was just like free writing. And I just found out I just loved to write. I started writing from there.
That's cool. So you're in this special program with, is it Room Magazine? Is that the name of it? And do you want to tell about your acceptance to that? Because when I saw, I do not remember the number, but I remember you mentioned the number of applicants, and there are only 8 of you?
6 of us.
Oh, 6 of you. 6 of you that got accepted. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So do you want to tell about that you're doing right now?
Yes, I was looking through some opportunities that were arising for writers, because I always wanted to go to school to be a writer since high school. But because there wasn't a lot of opportunities available, especially where we're from, I decided to actually started teaching. I actually went to school to be a nurse, and I became a nurse. But then I went all around. But I always wanted to learn how to expand my craft in writing. So I found this opportunity where you have a mentor, and mine is Thea, I can't pronounce her last name, Montigi, and she's from the Congo, and she's living in Canada. And you applied to be under her mentorship. And she chose me. They narrowed it down to so many people, and she was reading through my stories, because we were supposed to submit the first 10 pages, and she just loved my story. She said it was awesome, and that she just wanted to read more. So I was so excited when we started talking to each other. I've been working with her since April, and it's my whole style of looking into into the art of writing is just changed completely.
Wow, that is so exciting. So
exciting.
So how much longer do you have with her? And are you hoping to have a full manuscript by the time you finish?
We actually, the way it works is there's 6 applicants. So there's 6 people that got chosen. And for 3 months, we work with her. So 2 people work with her for the first 3 months, 2 people the next 3 months, and the last 2 months, and the last 2 people. So we can get more in-depth mentorship instead of just like a class. So I'm hoping to get at least halfway through the manuscript, because it ends at the end of June. Right now I'm up to chapter 7 of my novel. So hopefully by the end of June I will have reached, because she has us learn doing it by the cat. I don't know if you've heard it, the cat beat sheet.
Oh.
Yeah, so
no, you'll have to send me the link for that.
Oh yes, it's an amazing way of putting it. And it was actually formulated for us for movies, but they've adapted it to a movie script. But they've adapted it to write it into a novel, and it's just amazing, because it breaks it down for you like an outline, but much more detailed. And so I'm hoping to get to Act 2 of the beat sheet by the end of June.
Yeah,
and I think I'm on track.
Oh yeah, okay. The reason I asked about that is because I teach a class called dramatic structure, and that's what we do. We look at how the story is put together to get the theme across, and that's in the fall. So I'm teaching that in the fall, and I'm teaching it virtually, and hopefully Mark is going to take that class. That would be so fun if he did. But
I'll take it. Where is it from? Is it through Cochise?
yeah, it's through Cochise College, and I'm doing it via Zoom. So we have like movie party, where
Yes.
I share the screen, and the movies are actually embedded in Moodle, so you can watch them again if you want to. For example, we watch Cloud Atlas. That's really complicated because it's like 6 storylines.
Oh,
And
wow.
I've read the book. The book is structured much differently than the movie, but probably to follow this way of getting the thing across, they had to intertwine the stories to get, and once you've watched it 3 or 4 times, then you go, oh, I see how this little thing in this timeline connects to this little thing over here in this timeline. But it takes a while. You have to watch it.
I'm gonna have to take that class because, like I said, I'm looking for more and more opportunities on how to learn my craft.
Right. Well, that and plus I'm working on my second novel, but I have all these collection of scenes. What?
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Second one. I can't even get to the
well, it took me 7 years to do the first one. And when I finished the rough draft of it, I started this second one, but it has 2 timelines. And one of the timelines, the woman is part of the suffrage movement, and her 3 times great granddaughter, it was in 2014. She didn't have anything to do. And so it wasn't really until Me Too happened that I went, oh, now I have this new inspiration. And then COVID kind of tripped me up a little. I had to decide, do I want to include COVID or, so.
COVID's interesting.
Yeah. And so, but I'm somebody who just has to kind of let things percolate in my head for a long time. So I did print it all out, and I'm going to read through it this summer and rearrange the scenes and then see what needs to be filled in. But since theater is my background, I would love to see this cat beat sheet because I did take playwriting, but I was not very good at
it. I started off because apparently the way I write, and I didn't know that this was a good thing, but it's because Tia said that I write like a screen, like a camera through the camera's lens.
Mm-hmm.
So she says that's a style of writing, because all the writing groups that I've been have always said, Gemma, it feels like you're watching a movie when you're reading your play your book, and they said it needs to be more flowery, and so I always kept trying to make it more flowery and more in depth. Yeah. But my mentor was like, no, this is your style, this is perfect. So I like I said, I've gotten a lot more confidence.
Oh, that's good. That's great. Yeah, because I remember when I started my first novel, I wrote the dialogue first. I mean, I'm just used to that, Yeah. Because for years and years and years, I've watched movies, and then all my background in theater, and that's how you get the information, is through the dialogue. And then I had to go back and go, okay, now what's the body language of the character as they're saying this thing, and I had to add that in. And
I think that's probably why I also write like that, because I remember we were a part of drama club, and I followed that example. So she gave me a hint. She was like, okay, every 5 pages, make sure you read it through and at least include the 5 sentences in every 5 pages. Right. This is an exercise for me to get used to putting in all the details.
Yes. And that's what I had to do too. I had to go back and, okay, what does it smell like? What does it look like?
I just love the dialogue portion more. I think it's more fun. I don't know.
Yeah, right. So you love fantasy. What have you been reading lately?
Oh, well, I've been reading a lot of steampunk novels, and so I've been reading some steampunk novels, and then I'm really into Beck McMaster. She's a steampunk fantasy writer with a romance twist, so I gotta get me some of those.
Yeah. So have you read the Invisible Library series?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I think that's the name of it. Yeah, because it's kind of steampunk too. And
Ooh.
now I have not read this for 2 or 3 years. So I've only read 3 of the books, but there are like 5 in the series or something. But it's these people who work in libraries in one dimension and they go to another dimension to get books that they need to keep out of that dimension because something bad could happen if it stays there.
Oh,
And
okay. That
yeah,
sounds
and
interesting.
yeah, it is interesting.
What did you say it was? And I'm gonna write
I
it down.
think it's the Invisible Library. I just found it by Genevieve Cogman, and I will put it in the show notes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the first one, and there are more. There are
Okay.
more. Yeah, of that.
Yeah, I just love the whole steampunk phenomenon. It's amazing.
Yes. And so I just thought that, but I haven't finished the whole series. I need to go back and
Mhm.
finish the series. But it was interesting. Yeah, because it depends on where they go.
Oh,
Sometimes it's like in the 1800s, or sometimes it's in the, it's different time periods.
it just depends.
Yeah, and different technologies,
Yes.
and sometimes there are people who do magic, or that kind of thing.
That's
So
awesome.
it's really that series was very interesting. Yeah, I
I'm
liked
gonna
it a
have to
lot.
look into that for sure.
Yeah, you would like it. I think you would like it. So, what else are you reading?
Right now I just finished school, so I haven't had the last
Oh,
2 months of school have been crazy, so I haven't been able to read much, which is very disappointing because on
mm-hmm.
top of AZ merit, benchmarks, CFAs, closing finals, and then of course I have the writing of the room mentorship on top of all that. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had time to read.
Yes. But do you read with the students? Do you read the same thing?
Yes,
Because you're a reading teacher, right?
yes, I'm a reading teacher. So the
So
last thing
yeah, tell about that.
So we just adopted a new curriculum this year, of
Oh,
course, of all years. So we had to learn a whole new curriculum on top of learning how to teach virtually, which was very interesting. So we read a lot of their snippets of stories. So we've
mhm.
read stuff from Maya Angelou. We read the first short story we read was from the Joy Luck Club,
Oh
and
yeah.
I was able to share that I met Amy Tan
Oh,
at the Festival of Books in Tucson. And so I had the autographed book and I had the picture with her. And then I had the story that she was a seventh grade ELA teacher as well. So they
oh,
got all excited about that.
oh, that's neat.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was really cool to be able to connect it.
Well, I remember when I was teaching high school, we read The Giver, The Giver.
Yes, give her. Oh my
And
God.
and I did contact the author, and she said that she would get back to me so that we could, she could say something to the students. But then she she never did. And so I don't know if something happened and she had a deadline, or she was
Oh,
traveling or something. Yeah, because I thought it would have been fun for, her to be communicating with the students, but
yeah. I
yeah.
also met Lois Lowry, and
Oh.
she was intense, but she was funny.
Mhm. I met her. Well, I didn't meet her, but I heard her talk at when she was at Boyna
Oh, how
or
cool was that?
something. I've forgotten what it was, but yeah, that was interesting.
I just love hearing all these authors that give me the background of what they were thinking when they were writing it. And I thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's always interesting to me too. Like yesterday, I was talking to her name is Audra, but she writes under the name A.D. Trosper,
Mhm.
and it's all fantasy novels, but she has one of the series has got bunches of dragons in it. It's
Ooh.
not steampunk kind of stuff, but the one
I
that
still love anything. Like I said, Narnia, I was there.
Well, the one that she just finished the third book just got published this spring, and I had never read any of her stuff, but she happens to be a virtual friend with another writer virtual friend of mine. So that's how we got cooked up. And it's the Raven Daughter series, and it has demons and angels and gods and goddesses and that kind of stuff in it.
Wow.
And when I first started, I was like, I'm not really into demons that much, but the way she writes it, it's just like bloodlines, this is just the demon bloodline. This is just the angel bloodline. And the angels are not super good, and the demons are not super bad. And I mean, so as I went through the stories, I really liked it a lot.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So that was fun. And she was telling me how she got the idea for the story. And so I just really like that. Her episode's not going to air until August, but because Stacy, our mutual friend now, is gonna be my guest. I wanted Stacy to be my guest when I first started this last July, and she was like, "Oh no, I don't think I could do that," because she also has a fantasy series that I really love, and the first one is called The Quest of the Dream Walker, and now I'm reading her second book, Call of the Huntress, and she's working on the third one, and I think it comes out sometime this fall, the third one.
Wow.
So and the thing is that I've talked to 2 or 3 writers, and they all have to work on this. They have to work and then write on the side, and
that's what I have to do.
I know. And you being a teacher, how do you have time for writing? I mean,
I just sneak it in there when I can.
Yeah.
Kids are reading their online stuff. I'm grading or no reading.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun. It keeps you on your toes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Really. So I can't wait to hear about your story. Can you tell? Are you allowed to tell a little bit about what you're writing?
Yeah. Okay. It's not. I wish it was in the publication era stage, but it isn't. It's not even done yet. But so when I was with my nana when I was being raised with my nana, we used to watch a lot of telenovelas. And
right.
Yeah, so we used to watch a lot of telenovelas. And as a little girl, I always was, because after like the 5th telenovela you watch, it's the same formula. And unlike the American novelas, these end. And they don't go on and on and on. They end after like 3 months. And then a new one shows up, but they all follow the same plot line. And I always was wondering about the villain in the telenovela. I was always wondering about her story. Like, why did she become, it's always a she, why did she become so mean? Why did she hate the good girl so much? So that always stuck with me. And then when I wanted to start writing a story, I was like, well, that's a good way of starting it. So my story, the title of it right now is Through a Villain's Eyes. So the main character, the protagonist, is named Claudia Rojas. And she is actually a sicaria, which is a hit woman for the mafia. And so it follows her journey through before the novella would start, and then right after the novella would begin. And it follows the same format of a telenovela, but it's being told through the villain's point of view. So you follow, you realize why she became a sicaria, and it was to help the family. She is a cold-blooded killer, but you start seeing the humanity in her.
Yes.
And that was the point of the story. Because I always thought there must be a reason for that mean girl.
Yes, really. I love that. Well, and what I was thinking, this is not even really related, but Barry and I like Jack Ryan on Amazon. And we watched the first season we've watched both seasons, but in the first season, it was what you were saying, the terror, quote unquote, terrorists from the Middle East. Well, the whole movie or television show, it's like 10 episodes or something. It starts with these two boys, and they're in Damascus or someplace like that, and they're up on the roof of their house, and the town gets bombed, and it's by American planes, American bombs, and their whole family is killed. It's just the two of them that survived because they were up on the roof. And so the older of the brothers starts this quest to make America pay. And as the story goes along, you understand why he is a terrorist. I mean, it's not that you really condone it, but it's like, it's so interesting to show how he became that, which I think is so interesting. So I'm glad that you did it that way.
Thank you. I love it because I finally get to go into that mindset of that mean girl that I was thinking about all my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that the villain is always the woman in the telenovelas.
That's in telenovelas because, it's mostly geared towards women in Mexico. And there's always a cat fight. There's always you can have different. Actually, there are several actresses that just get replayed in different roles, and there's an actress that's always the mean one, and there's an actress that's always the good one. So it's very prescription.
Well, it might be sort of like our soap operas, although I haven't watched those forever.
So I haven't watched soap opera forever, but it's the same theory. Yeah, but it ends. So
instead of continuing to go on and on. Oh yeah,
and it always ends with one of the women dying. So
is it usually the villain?
The villain, yeah.
Yeah, she dies. Oh, because I've never watched any of those. I guess I'll have to go watch them.
And they're so dramatic. Like my mentor, she's like, the reason I liked her is because it reminds me of Jane the Virgin, or there's another one that was coming out that she mentioned, and I watched the Mexican version of Betty la Fea. But she says that I don't remember what it was called, Betty la Ugly or Betty the I don't know.
Oh right. So Ugly Betty. Ugly Betty.
There you go. Ugly Betty. So
yeah.
It's a mixture of that and Queen of the South, she says.
Oh wow. Oh, well, I was wondering if it was anything like Killing Eve. I've never seen Killing Eve.
I've never seen Killing Eve.
But I was wondering if it was something like that. Oh yeah.
She says, because I guess there's I'm trying to start on Twitter. I'm not really big on the tweet yet, but apparently if you want to be an author, you have to do.
Yeah.
And apparently there's like a pit mad or something like that, where you write your pitches to different agents, and it's like you put hashtag pitmad, and all these different agents that are looking for queries look through them, and then they message you.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
See, I'm so old. I don't want to wait around for somebody to say, "Oh yes, we'll publish your book," and then it'll be 3 years down the road.
Yeah. It's just so. But I'm not in it to get published. I'm just in it to expand the writing craft because it's just so much fun.
Yeah. Well, I started an Instagram account and I do these little videos, I do, and sometimes it's about my podcast and sometimes it's about my blog or my writing or something that's going on out in the world. But because I tried Twitter, I still have a Twitter account, and my blog and my podcasts do go up on Twitter, but I don't check into Twitter because I don't get it. And it's probably because I'm way too old.
Well, no, because when I also met Stan Lee. He's the creator of Marvel.
Oh yeah.
So I met Stan Lee and I was part of the I go a lot to Comic-Cons. And so one of the Comic-Cons that I went to, he was He was one of the presenters.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so funny because before we got to meet him, he gave out the speech and he was like, yeah, they have me signing into this tweet and this twat, and I have no clue what either one of those is. He was just so funny. And so he's like, they want me to do this and I don't know what it is. It was hilarious.
No, really. I do have an author page on Facebook, but again, I had to kind of stop paying attention to social media so that I could do my things, my writing, my blog, because it was just taking up too much of my life. And so I do have connections there, and the links go to those things, but I don't go check into them very often. And and one of the things I want to do this summer is I have a YouTube channel, but I want to create a page for Story Power and just have all the podcasts on.
Oh, that's a good idea.
There too, because I do have some students from the college who have podcasts and they do it exclusive. Well, I don't know, maybe he's moved it to Apple or Google or something. I do have Apple, Google, and Spotify. The RSS feeds go there. But he started it. His name is Trevor. He started it on YouTube, he and his friend. And so I said, oh, maybe I should do that too, because that would be like a fourth outlet or a fifth outlet, because I also have it on my website.
Oh, you're a busy woman.
Oh, well, it seems like it, but I've been home for months and months. Well, I mean, I go into the campus to teach my class in an empty room. I had to go teach my acting class in an empty room via Zoom. Yeah, that was very weird. But we're going to do it face-to-face coming in the fall again. And I was so fortunate in 2017 to meet Dave Dahl, who's a professional actor, director, and stage manager. He helped me with Measure for Measure, which is a kind of a Me Too Shakespeare play. We were doing it right when the whole Harvey Weinstein thing was blowing up, and he's an expert in Shakespeare. So he's working on his master's so that we can do more team teaching, but he does help me with acting class. And the kids really get a lot out of him because he's been doing it for 25 or 30 years. And, he's got all these little tricks to help them connect emotionally with the characters. And so having him there helps. And he had some ideas about how we could make acting work on Zoom, which was difficult. It was difficult, but we managed to make it work.
Yeah. During the summer, I always teach folklorico.
Right.
And then last year, I didn't know if we were going to have folklorico this year during the year. So I was like, we have to keep it up. We have to keep it up. So I had to figure out how to do for our district is Google, how to do Google Meets folklorico. It's a whole different world because you're like, it's just a different way of thinking, especially when you've been ingrained for years. Okay, this is how you do it. And like a part of me was like, okay, I don't want your foot like that, but I can't go and like position it.
Yes.
It's so frustrating.
So tell about folklorico, because I had never heard of it until I started teaching in Douglas. And it's so beautiful to watch the dances. I just think that they're gorgeous. And are there specific like set dances, or tell about it?
So folklorico, Mexican folklorico, because like every region, but down here it's just called folklorico.
Right.
But there are 71 states, I believe, in Mexico, and each region has their own folklore, their own stories, and their own traditions. Even though most people associate folklorico, with like the Mexican hat dance and the state of Jalisco, which is those big, beautiful, colorful dresses. And that is like the heart of folklorico. But there's also like Veracruz, and Veracruz was the region of Veracruz was greatly influenced by Spanish and Afro roots because the slaves would be right there because it's by the peninsula of Mexico. It's on the so the Veracruz folklore deals a lot with Spanish and Afro influences. There is a dance that we love to dance. It's called La Bruja, which is the witch, and it's based and it weaves in and out of all these different folklores. And so you dance it with the white dress and the fan, and then on the top of your head you balance a candle, and then what it says was, if you drop the candle, you drop the light of Christ. So that means you must be a witch. Like every dance has its own story. For example, one of the Veracruz dances that a lot of people know is La Bamba. And it was traditionally danced by two lovers. Most of the dances in Mexico are between lovers, but this one was a wedding dance. And with their feet, they have to tie a bow within a certain amount of time frame through the music. And if they're able to tie that bow with their feet only, that means their love is going to last forever. And then if they can't tie the bow within the time frame allowed, they're going to have a rocky marriage. So it's like, I just love the story behind each dance that I teach. And I mean, I can go on and on about all the different stories of every dance that we do, but I feel so proud that I get to teach these students our culture, and it's just amazing. And I like tying in the stories of our history with my writing, so it's very interesting knowing everything that I know and how it just intertwines.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that's so great. Because I don't know why I never asked about it before. I just enjoyed watching
and most people do. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it is beautiful. Oh yeah, they're all beautiful.
And then, but my mom, she's like, you had to pick the most conservative, because conservative dances she means because the back then the where the dances are set are in the past. So they wore the Victorian dresses and everything like that, and like one dress has 25 yards of fabric. So my mom has to like make all these dresses with 25 yards of fabric, and then that doesn't even go into the ribbons. And so I'm really fortunate that my mother knows how to sew and she can sew for the group.
Yes, really. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Because the costumes are so elaborate and so beautiful.
Yes. And they're very expensive. Like if you were to buy them off of Mariachi Connection, one for a child, which is not what art students are, it's $100 and some dollars, $170, and that's just a standard one. And ours we use doble vuelo, which means it's more expensive.
Wow. So how do you fund the fabric?
So we started a booster club in the Hogorico Club. So the parents help out, and we do a lot of fundraisers. The fundraiser actually that brings in the most money besides the recital every year is the Coscoron sale, which is very, very apropos, I guess. But a Coscoron is one of those eggs, emptied out eggs with confetti in it.
Yeah.
And then that's wrapped with tissue paper. And then, so usually when at the end of the school year at our school, they have a fun day and they throw powder and then everything. Well, we sell those coscorones, the eggs, and they sell out within an hour. And we have tons. We have cratefuls of eggs that my tia, the students donate their eggs, and my tia fills them with confetti and does the whole shebang. And so then they just go around and start smashing them on heads. And I'm very fortunate to say that most teachers are okay with them being smashed on their heads. So they're very good sports about that.
Oh, that's great. I love it. I love it.
So
yeah.
They enjoy doing that.
So it's really great that you have family members to help you out.
Yeah. I don't know if they've been volunteered.
That's great. Because I have no family here. So if I were to teach something like that, it would be hard.
Well, it's really funny because like my mom, when I first started doing folklorico, they knew her as, it's Gemma's mom. And so they still know her as Gemma's mom. And so they don't even like my kids, my students, I call them kids. They come and they give her all their costumes so she can hold on to them in between dance changes. And they're like, Gemma's mom, Miss Herman's mom, can you hold this? I mean, she's a sweetheart. I don't know how she has time to do everything because she's also volunteering at a local Cypress Inn. I don't remember if you know it. It's a senior center, like a senior facility. So she's volunteering there, but I keep her busy. She retired. I keep her busy.
Yeah. So you are busy.
Yes, I am. It seems like it gets busier every year. Like in the past, I've had just school when I first started teaching. Then I had my own dance studio there for a while. And then I had to close it because there was a family emergency. And then I was like, well, I'll just start up a political group at our school. So Monday through Friday, except on early release days, we have an hour or two practice. Usually, due to COVID, it was off because there was no clubs allowed. But usually, we teach from 3:30 to 5. We have folklorico. And now I volunteered to have a writing club. So that's going to be very interesting too.
That's great.
Yeah. So I'm very this coming year. We did a poetry contest kind of to start off the writing friends. And we did our first poetry contest in Huber. And it was amazing. We got 14 entries and we only had it open for a week. It was so cool to see some of these kids' poetry. It's like, yay, the spark of writing is there.
That's so cool. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, I don't remember Huber having that large a population.
Well, it's the larger of the two schools because you know how we have Ray-Brain and then we have Huber. Ray-Brain is the smaller school.
Yeah.
Paul Huber, I mean, when COVID wasn't around, I used to have class sizes of 42, 45 kids.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
I didn't have that many when I was there, I don't think.
No.
Well, yeah. 25 or 30 is about how many I had. Wow.
You know, one class had 45 2 years ago.
I had that many one time when I was teaching at the high school. And I didn't, and then people were sitting on the floor, and
yeah,
so they had to take some students out.
We had students doubling up on desks and stuff. Obviously, we can't do that because of COVID, which is good because they deserve their own desk.
That's right. Yes. Oh my goodness. Wow, that's a lot. You must be a popular teacher.
They're my kids. It's always very heartwarming when they come and tell you, Miss, this Miss, you're my favorite teacher, but it's just, you have to connect with the students. That's the biggest thing. Like you connected with all of us. So it was very nice to see you again. And it's very nice to connect with students. I mean, last December, the December before COVID, so that was 2 years ago. Isn't it amazing how we discuss things with COVID now?
I know, really.
Okay, but 2 Decembers ago, I had a student who graduated that the May before, and she was leaving to U of A, and she brought me a thank you card. And I'm a middle school teacher, and she remembered me, and I thought that, and she said, "Thank you for always believing in me." Oh, and so that just made me I was like almost crying in front of her when she I was like, "Thank you so much!" Like it was, I won Coaches County Teacher of the Year.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that I had a student that remembered me, a middle school teacher, 2 years after she graduated on her way to U of A, it just meant so much to me.
Yes. Oh, that's so great. I love it. Yes, that always, I always love that too. A lot of my guests for the podcast are mostly former college students. I think you're the first one that was one of my high school students, but yeah, but yeah, I try to stay connected with them. Like my dentist is Carlos Benavides. So he's one of the students that I had there in Douglas. And yeah, so it's always fun. And I keep track of Mark and And some of the other,
so cute.
I know, I love him. I know. I love that he named him Clark.
I know.
Because he loves Superman so much. So yeah, it's good to keep in contact with those. And some of them I have as friends on Facebook or something, and I kind of keep track of them that way. But wow, so good luck on your novel. I'm so excited for you. That sounds fantastic. Can't wait to read it.
I'm gonna have to look into your book. I can't wait to see that.
Oh yeah, it's called The Space Between Time, and you can find it on Amazon. I haven't sold a whole lot of. I just sold 2 from the Bisbee Books and Music or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the lady at the independent bookstore in Sierra Vista used to carry it too. I don't know if she carries it anymore, but I have it on Kindle.
Oh, okay.
And I was starting to do the audiobook myself, but I decided this is not for me. So at some point I want to hire someone to do the book, but it's kind of long because it has 2 time periods,
Yeah.
So it's like I'm telling this woman's story and this woman's story. They intertwine, but yeah. And then I'm hoping to finish sometime this year. I'm hoping to finish the rough draft of the second one so that I can get it finished. But the podcast is taking up so much of my time and my blog that it's like, fitting in the writing is difficult.
You gotta do what makes you what makes it the most fun for you.
That's right. Exactly. Well, do you have any recommendations of books for the people who are listening?
Honestly, I am drawing a blank only because we've talked about so many books, but what I tell my students to read because they need to find their niche is the Chronicles of Narnia.
Mm-hmm.
That will be my that is my saving grace every time I'm in a slump, only because it reminds me why I started to love reading.
Right. Yeah, because some people are going to love action, or some people are going to love history, or some are going to love mystery, or so it just depends on the person.
That's what I tell my kids. I'm like, once you find the niche and where you will love to read.
Yeah, and it will one book leads to another book, to another book, to another book. And sometimes you eventually cross genres, but yeah.
As long as you start igniting that love for reading, it takes off.
You know how my parents did it with my brother? They bought him a subscription to Sports Illustrated because he was a big sports fan. And that's kind of how he started really enjoying reading. Yeah, he loved sports, so he read Sports Illustrated, and he doesn't read a lot of novels, but he reads a lot of nonfiction. And he was teaching, for years and years. He's retired now, but yeah, he was teaching at the high school level. Then he taught at the college level, but he never got hooked on novels or fiction, but he reads a lot. So,
and see, I can't read nonfiction because there's not enough dialogue.
Right. Yeah. Well, and if you have somebody like Brene Brown who tells lots of stories in her nonfiction, or Elizabeth Gilbert does that too. And I'm reading, a friend of mine has a business called Love-Based Leadership. Her second book is coming out, and it's nonfiction, but the chapters are really short, and it's the 21 principles that you need to be a good leader. And so there are these exercises and, things to do. And I was reading one of them and I went, oh, this chapter would be perfect for acting class. So it was like, oh, well, that was kind of great. I could use some of the things from this chapter in acting class. So yeah, I do read nonfiction, not all the time, but I do read it occasionally. Wow. So do you have anything else you want to say?
I think that's it. This is the first time I've done a podcast. So I'm very excited. I didn't even expect it to be so smooth.
Well, I'm so excited that you did this for me because it was great to connect with you again.
Yes, we need to keep in touch.
Good.
I might ask you to read my story one of these days when I'm done with the draft.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I would love it. Oh, and I was going to say, Maria's book that I'm reading is on this thing called NetGalley, where people can read your book before it's published and then they can write reviews, and that helps them sell the book. And I thought, I should check out NetGalley for my second novel. When I feel like it's ready. The two women that I had that were they were writing friends I met in a writing group, but they helped me with the first book, but they've both died now. So I'm looking for someone else to connect with that can kind of be my, a beta reader kind of person to say, oh, I was confused here. Or
I think it's so hard because where we live, it's so hard to find anybody who is like, I would love to have like a writers group, even if we do it Zoom wise. That'd be awesome, where we can just like say, well, trade chapters or something.
Yes. I was in a writers group a couple of different times, and I could not keep up with, there were just so many people in the first group. There were so many people. I couldn't keep up with all the reading that I needed to do to make the comments. So I dropped, that's how I met Deborah and Cappy. And then,
oh my God, Cappy, you were talking about Cappy. I know Cappy.
Yes. Oh, I loved her.
I love Cappy. I mean, my God, we were in the Mirage group together. We were the editors.
Right.
So we were then there together, and it was just, she was a beautiful soul.
I know. It was so sad when she died.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was, I used to love hearing her writing about her birds. Oh, it was just awesome.
Oh, I know that book that she wrote about that. That's a
Parrot.
great book.
Yes. Oh, it was amazing.
What is it? Love something in Parrots. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yes. Yes. Oh, she was an amazing person.
Well, one of the people that was her, Ross Lampert is his name. He writes fantasy too. Or no, excuse me, he writes sci-fi. He and Cappy were best friends, and they are the ones who started the writing group. And he's collecting all of the things that she wrote. I think he and her husband, and I think they're going to try to publish.
That'll be nice.
Yeah. I haven't talked to Ross in a while, so I have to find out where they are on that project, because she wrote under a lot of different names.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
I was just used to the one she would write for the creative writing celebration, and also for the Mirage.
Yeah. So she would also write under different names for those too sometimes.
Oh, look at her.
I know. She was bold.
Yes, she was. I loved her.
I know. She was great. She was a great lady. Well,
it was so weird she brought her name up. I was thinking about her actually.
Yeah, it's
the coolest name, Cappy Love Hansen.
I know. She did have a cool name. Yeah. So thank you, Gemma, so much for being my guest.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a blast.
Oh, good. And I can't wait to read your novel.
I will hold you to that.
Okay. Well, thank you. And we'll keep in touch.
Yes. Bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend and give us a review on your favorite podcast app. It will help people find us. You'll find the show notes for this episode at my website, Sage Woman Chronicles, at sagewoman.life. You can leave a comment there. And remember, as Philip Pullman said, after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.